So does it fit in the old plunge base? This is one I've been waiting to get my hands on for a long time. It's the Makita XGT RT001G Laminate Trimmer, or palm router, or quarter-inch router, trim router. They seem to have a lot of different names, these things. I tend to call it a trim router now. I used to call them palm routers. Anyway, it's a quarter-inch router on the XGT system. Let's take a look what comes in the box. Now, if you've been watching my videos on upcoming Makita tools, you will have seen me talk about this tool a couple of times. And in Japan it comes with a clear base, a square clear plastic base, or a plunge base, whereas here in New Zealand it does not. Anyway, instructions. Ooh, see, a little bit different here. So in New Zealand it comes with this base, just like the 18-volt version. It is a circular aluminium affair with a rubberized TPE overmolding for grip, and it looks like it comes with a square base as well. So that's interesting. I personally don't really think you need a square base. It's also got that cutout there. What else have we got? We've got the dust chute. We've got 2 spanners and a bushing for following templates. And what have we got in here? We're gonna have... Oh, I'm disappointed because sometimes they put them in, sometimes they don't. It all seems to be luck of the draw when you buy a trim router, whether you get one of these or not. I have one, so it's not a big deal, but I would have liked to have seen one of those included in the box. So I guess the best way to look at this tool is to compare it straight away to the old Makita 18-volt version. It was one of the earliest trim routers to be released as a cordless version, and it is the DRT50, or in the States, what is it, the XTR01. First off, you can see there's a bit of a height difference here. The 40 volt is much chunkier where you put the battery on. Reasons for that probably being, well, it's a different motor system. They may have to have a bit more electronics in there with the new batteries and everything. And also it has AWS, so it is Bluetooth chip compatible. Put your Bluetooth chip in there and you can turn your vac on and off as soon as you push the power button. Something a lot of guys love, something I probably wouldn't end up using. All depends on the job and the application and everything. We'll talk about the 2 of these, and then I will put them up against each other in a series of tests to see how much more powerful, presumably it is more powerful, than the 18 volt. We will then put it up against the HiKOKI. Now this isn't the 18 volt version, this is the 36 volt version. So this tool and this tool are both 36 volts. So it'll be interesting to see if Makita have, with that extra little bit of time, managed to get a bit more power than HiKOKI managed to get. I hope so. Although this is a very good router, it is substantially better than the 18 volt version. But back to the 2 Makitas. When it comes to changing your bits, you have the same locking mechanism on both of these units. Push this in, it locks into the hole in the shaft here, and then you can just use a spanner to get your nut undone. Or there is some flats here, so you can put a spanner on here and another spanner on your nut and use 2 spanners, which you might need to do if you've done it up a bit too tight. You can't get it undone with this. Get a couple of spanners on it, gives you a bit more leverage. The standard base that it comes with here in New Zealand looks to be identical to the 18 volt version. I can't tell any difference. It looks the same to me. Yeah, I've gone all over it. The model numbers are slightly different, but it looks to be essentially the exact same design. Nothing stands out as being different. But as you saw a moment ago, the 40 volt does come with this square base as well, so you can swap it out. So you can swap out the circle for the square. Which do you prefer? I started off with square and then thought, no man, the circles are way better because you can just spin it on any angle. It's a rotating center, it always cuts the same way, so why do you need a square one? Anyway, some guys like the square ones. Let me know why you like the square one over the circle, or vice versa, and what your reasons are. This looks like the plate that comes on the base of the tilt base. You can get one of these that tilts, so that if you're just using a straight bit, you can tilt it to do a chamfer or something like that. And you need a straight edge for that, because if your router bit's on an angle like that, and you've got a round base, you are going to end up with the blade going like this, instead of going straight. If it's dead in the center, then you can spin this around as you're moving it along, it'll be fine. But if you tilt it, you need a flat base, but I don't know why they necessarily put it in with a base that doesn't tilt. power button area is the same, so you have the unlock and then power, just like the 18 volt version. You can see that the 40 volt is wider. That's because the battery area is wider. The batteries have that more gruntier rail to fit on the top than the 18 volt version does. So it is a bit more cumbersome in this area. Is that going to be annoying when you use the actual tool? Is it going to be a bit top heavy? People were concerned about these being too top heavy. Well, this is going to be much more top heavy. But is it going to be a problem? Is the tool weighted nicely? We'll find out when I get to use the thing. They're both variable speed from 1 through to 5. I'm glad they stopped at 5. But if you look at the nameplates, the 18 volt goes from 10,000 to 30,000 RPM, whereas the 40 volt goes from 10,000 to 31,000 RPM. You get 1,000 extra bloody spinny things. And this moves a little bit on the 18 volt, but the battery connection area on the 40 volt is goes in every direction. So I've got quite a bit of vibration mitigation there or something going on. It's the little things though, isn't it? You know, for some reason I really like these Japanese paper bags. Time for some weights. I'm only going to do these in kgs, not pounds I'm afraid, just because there's too many. I don't want to have to try and work it all out. So 18 volt bare tool, no base, no battery, 1,039 grams, just over a kg. This one is definitely heavier, 1,111. So not that much heavier. I'm surprised. So that extra size has only added, we're talking about like 70 grams. That's not too bad. What about with the bases? Standard base and 6 amp hour battery with the 18 volt, 2.13 kgs. What battery are we going to put on with this one? We're starting at 1.54 kgs with the base on. Both of them I have also added the dust chute. I usually have the dust chute on all the time. I can't be bothered taking it on and off. It's a pain to take on and off. And that way it just prevents you from ever sticking your finger in the front, even though I don't actually use the dust chute all the time. But yeah, helps give you that extra little bit of protection, especially if you're not the only one using the tool all the time. So which battery shall we put on it? The 5 amp hour? That's probably unlikely that you'll use that one. You're more likely to use a 2.5 amp hour. So with a 2.5 amp hour battery, the 40 volt comes in at 2261. I'm actually really shocked. 2133. 2261. So 130 grams difference between them. That's not the end of the world, I suppose. But maybe the size will be a more determining factor. That extra height might make it slightly more wobbly. I guess there's one way to find out. But first, you all want to see what it looks like with the 5 amp hour battery on it, right? Look at that. She's a beast. Kind of looks like a boot in some sort of shoe. With that battery on, what does it weigh? 2.87 kgs. 1.5 kgs. And this is 1.3 kgs. That might be starting to get a bit heavy. Not so much heavy as awfully lopsided in the weight department. You know, could be a bit whoop when you're holding it. Might want to pull that way a little bit. Anyway, let's go try it. Now you've probably already worked out that from these having the same standard bases that the 40 volt will fit in the Plunge Base. This Plunge Base takes the 18 volt tool as well as the AC powered tool. And does it take the 40 volt tool? Oh no. There we go. In she goes. All the Makita accessories from the trim routers in recent years, from the AC models available all around the world to the 18 volt and now the 40 volt, they all fit together. So if you've got one of these and you've got a corded one, an 18 volt one, you can now just chuck in your 40 volt trimmer as well and just use the one base. I know a lot of people wanted to know that, and it's good that with the bigger motor they still managed to fit it all in there. So yeah, all good. Now I've just noticed they've only included one collet with the 40 volt. With the 18 volt I got a 1/4 inch and a 3/8 inch, which I thought was a bit odd. I've never seen a 3/8 inch bit available, so an 8mm would have been a lot more logical. It seems every router I've bought, and that's like about 7 now, they all come with different collet sizes, and it's just a bit odd. So this only comes with a 6.35mm or 1/4 inch in this part of the world. This HiKOKI, when I got it from Japan, I believe came with a 6mm and an 8mm, but not a 1/4 inch, so I couldn't actually fit any of the 1/4 inch bits in there. So I do have some 6mm bits, so you can use that for that. And the 6mm ones don't fit in these without an extra collet. I did buy an extra collet for that one. So just be aware, you might have to get collets depending on what sort of router bits you use and where you live in the world. Anyway, shall we just compare the sounds of these things? So we'll set them both on 5. So both on 5. This is the 18 volt. Has 2 LEDs on the front, as does the new 40 volt, which sounds like this. And has a better brake on it. 18 volt. 40 volt. You can hear that sort of extra speed or power there. It definitely sounds different, and it has a much quicker brake, as you saw. This is a roundover bit. Speed 3. Speed 3. It would make my life so much easier if I just kept things tidy as I went along. When will I ever learn? Now I won't be testing the AWS because I don't have an AWS vac, so I can't actually test it. I've got plenty of tools and plenty of chips, but don't have the vac. Anyway, I don't think I'd even bother using it with this anyhow, because routers, man, they just fire the shit wherever they want to fire it. If you are going along the edge of a piece of wood, rounding over, chamfering, straightening an edge, you just fire the shit straight out the bottom and all over the show. And if you're trying to do a groove, like you will see me do in this video, this is facing forward, yet all the shit comes this direction. Even when you got the vac on there, it makes no difference at all. Just turn it around, you know, here you say, yeah, but then you're holding it like this if you're right-handed. It's all back to front, unfortunately. Ideally, that needs to be like that, and this clip needs to be on the other side so that you can, but then of course the hose and stuff will get in the way, and yeah, not ideal. Anyway, let's chuck it in the plunge base and do some cuts. If you want to know more about the plunge base, I will put some links to videos I did about this plunge base down in the description, maybe up in the corner, and also the template thing that you saw. If I can find some links, I'll put them down below. Quite cool. You have a bushing in the bottom here, follows those template guides, and yeah, you can write things. Pretty neat, huh? Lots of different sizes and stuff you can get, so have a look down in the description if you want more info about those, and if you want to find out more about my customized base here. Whilst we are talking about bases, I wish instead of them giving a small little square one for this, they did something more like the Milwaukee one and give you a decent sized plate like this. This makes life so much easier when you're trying to route over a large gap and you want to take out a lot of material in the middle, because you've got support either side. This is a very small area. So yeah, this big base came as a bonus with the Milwaukee router. So yeah, I'd rather see something like that. I mean, this is fairly easy to make, but unfortunately the holes don't line up, so but I might put that like that and drill some more holes in this and just use that one again. And still on bases, this is the clear square base. As you can see, looks very much like the Makita one that you get in Japan, but it's actually the one that comes with this HiKOKI. As you will see later in the video, the HiKOKI bases are also able to be used with the Makita stuff, and the HiKOKI fits in the Makita bases. So all the Japanese stuff seems to all fit together, which can make life a lot easier. If you can't find an accessory from one company, you can always get it from another. Next up, the 16mm diameter. What's that, 5/8? We're going to run this at about 10mm or 3/8 depth, and I'm going to run it on the 18V tool here, and we're going to run it on the 40V tool, and on this one we'll also chuck the HiKOKI in the mix. And this is just a stall test, basically a torture test. See who's got the most power and which one's going to cut out first. Couldn't get it to go. This is the point in the video where people start typing furiously down below that nobody uses a router like that. You're supposed to do it in multiple passes. Is it worth trying to explain to these people what a YouTube video is and what I'm trying to prove? Why do I even care? Why do I even care about these people? I need to just stop giving a shit about morons. I'm not going to use the router with that battery on it. It's just too ridiculous. It's, yeah, a little bit top heavy. If you are going to buy one of these, do yourself a favour, and when you first get it, you need to change something. I just used this base when I needed to do all the tests with that guide on it, and I used this base when I was using a ball bearing guided router bit. But what you need to do, this is the one that came on the 40V, and if you take a look at this here, there is a small little washer in here. You need to take that washer out and you need to replace it with a much bigger washer, else this happens over and over again. Unfortunately, there is just not enough meat on that poxy little washer in there to hold your straight guide straight. It just keeps twisting and turning because, yeah, there's just not enough grip. So put a couple of bigger washers in there, save yourself a world of pain. I did some tests with this router bit here. I thought this would be a good stall test one, and I thought I'd use it in some of this stuff. It's a bamboo composite board, and it is super hard, super dense. It's kind of like MDF, but not medium density fiber board, rather it is FDF. I'll let you figure out what the first F stands for. And it is super hard. Bamboo my ass. It looks like they've just filled it with any old shit that was laying around on the floor. After I did a pass with this, I saw so many flecks of metal in it, so just horrible stuff to work with, which is annoying because I want to sort of tongue and groove it, but it's just going through router bits so quick. It burnt the edges of this so fast. When I tried to stick it into pine, I thought, okay, we'll forget that test, we'll do it in pine then. And yeah, this is what happened. Right, let's start dragging this all together. We've talked about the bases plenty. So complaints. Well, the first complaint is the base. They haven't made a decent adjustment. They probably haven't done that because they're trying to keep all the accessories interchangeable, like I said earlier. And if they change that, then it probably wouldn't fit with all the other ones and it'd just become a nightmare. But it would have been nice to see something like this where you can dial in a very fine adjustment, because making fine adjustments on this can be a pain because it's very easy for the whole thing to slip, and yeah, pain in the bum. If you are familiar with the 18 volt tool, you are already familiar with this tool. The only difference really being the AWS and more power. This is going to be a tool that gets two different sorts of comments down below. One is going to be from the guys that say it's basically the same as the 18 volt one, I'll keep the 18 volt one. Fair enough. And others that say, wow, that's way more powerful, I'm going to be swapping my 18 volt for that as soon as I can. I reckon it'll be about a 50-50 mix. And this is basically why. If you only use a trim router for trimming the edges, like I did in the video, when you're just putting a chamfer on, rounding off the edges, maybe just using it as a laminate trimmer, then the 18 volt one's fine, and you can't really tell any difference. They're basically the same speed. It's not going to be any different to you. So by all means, stick with the 18 volt. If you want a trim router that you can use for a few more things, where you need a bit more power, something closer to what this is, then this is a good solution, because this has way more torque. Once you start getting into deep cuts, wide cuts, that sort of stuff, this is way more powerful than the 18 volt. The 18 volt, as you're probably aware, stalls quite easily, and this is very hard to stall. I had to push pretty darn hard to stall this with that 16mm bit. Probably a lot easier with a larger bit, something like that. But for the purposes of the test I did, the 18 volt stalls easily, this stalls somewhere in the middle, and this, yeah, way better. I can run this so much faster than I can run this. These are both 36 volt tools. So if you're only doing small stuff, you can stick with the 18. If you want something that's a bit closer to a 1/2 inch router, then this is good. Is it as good as the HiKOKI 36 volt plunge router, the 1/2 inch? Well, I'm not putting that in this video because I figured it makes much more sense to just do the trim routers. These two you of course want to see next to each other, and this is the only other 36 volt one to compare with the new Makita. But maybe in a future video I'll put it up against this and we'll see how close it is. Seeing as it is better than this one, it might almost be as good as the 1/2 inch, almost a solution to a 1/2 inch plunge router, but unfortunately without the 1/2 inch, so you can only run the small bits in this, of course. Run time is something you guys are going to want to know too, isn't it? Well, I haven't done enough testing to know the runtime, I'm afraid, because I haven't actually got that many things to do at the moment where I require a router whenever I do have a big job to do with whatever, and I think, damn, I wish I had a new tool right now to test, and then a week later you get that new tool and then you got nothing to do. It's really bloody annoying. Was the extra height and weight annoying? Didn't really notice, to be honest. It basically felt the same as using the 18V one. Could hardly tell any difference apart from the sound. You can hear the 18 struggling a bit more than you can with this, and yeah, this I can push a lot faster if I need to, or I want to. When making the sign in the background there, the apprentice said it felt the same as the 18V version. Couldn't really tell any difference. So now it's up to you. Let me know down below. If you've got one of these, what do you reckon? How much better is it than the 18V? Do you love it? Do you hate it? Do you think it's not quite good enough? Let me know down below. Let me know if you want one, etc, etc. I will put some links down below to these. Pretty hard to get in most parts of the world. I'll put a handy hardware link if you are in New Zealand to get one. Otherwise, you may have to get one from Japan. In Japan, you've got the two different options. You can get it with the Plunge Base, which is a pretty cool idea, or you can get it with a clear square plastic base like this. Not a base like this. So different countries are going to be different, but that's the Japanese way of doing it. This is the New Zealand way of doing it. So have a look down below if you're interested in getting one. There'll be links. There'll be a link to the review for this tool. I have put this one up against the 18V version of the HiKOKI, which I have now sold, and put it up against this one. Lots of router reviews on my channel, so take a look down in the description. What will I be getting rid of now? I've got enough routers, enough trim routers now. There's another one kicking around somewhere. What am I going to do? Which ones to get rid of? I kind of don't need this one now, and I could probably get rid of. It's good that these all fit in the same bases, so I can, yeah. Oh, it's going to be tricky. What to do? What to do? What to do? Well, I guess that brings us to the end. If you haven't subscribed already and you've made it this far, thank you for that. Please consider subscribing. Tons of Makita reviews on this channel. Tons more Makita stuff still to come. Got a couple of real big ones coming. I had so many problems making this video, as well as making the 40V plunge saw video. So many things went wrong. I spent a whole day the other day videoing plunge saw and router tests, and the entire day was wasted. All of the footage was no good. I was so gutted. And then the next day started off pretty much the same, and yeah, just so many things have gone wrong. So many stupid little things. Nothing wrong with the tools, just problems with everything else around them and the recording and everything. I could do the end of year blooper reel that I normally do. I could do that now just with the plunge saw and the router. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm just rambling like a crazy man now, so I'll see you later. More reviews real soon. Cheers, guys.